The movie starts with a little Wei drawing. Her father, Lu, asks what she is drawing. She says it is the corpse flower she saw in his notebook. Then, they go together to feed the snake, and Wei gives it a rat. Lu tells her to go and do her homework. Wei asks when he will fix his face. He replies that he won't just change his face, he will change hers too. Meanwhile, Lu works in his laboratory. He injects the rat's skin with something and immediately places it on his face. At first, his face starts to heal, but suddenly, the rat's skin spreads over his mouth, sealing it shut. Panicked, he grabs his notebook, searching for a solution. Desperate, he takes a surgical knife and cuts his mouth open, but the skin regenerates instantly. Wei tries to help, cutting her father's face again and again, but it's useless. In the end, Lu dies. Years later, Wei sits in her room, sketching different designs. She overhears a conversation next door. Someone is assuring her aunt, Ling, that Wei won't be a problem. Ignoring it, Wei grabs her luggage and scholarship papers. Afterward, she arrives in the Netherlands, where Ling welcomes her at the airport. As they talk, Ling tries to see Wei's face, which is hidden under a scarf. She notices a scar but chooses to ignore it, instead suggesting Wei follow in her father's footsteps and become a scientist. During the drive, Ling chats non-stop, while Wei, excited by the new country, takes in the sights. Eventually, they reach Ling's house. Cheryl, Ling's neighbor, was in the garden. Instead of greeting them, she stared at Wei strangely. Wei, however, paid no attention to her. Angela comes downstairs as her small dog barks at Wei. She greets Wei and apologizes for the dog. While Ling speaks in Chinese, Angela asks her to switch to English. To Ling's surprise, Wei responds in fluent English, something Ling didn't know she could do. Ling then takes Wei to her room. Later, Angela calls her for dinner and mentions she will leave the keys for her. Wei tries to respond, but Angela, distracted by her ringing phone, ignores her. Later, Wei quietly approaches Angela's room and overhears her talking to her father, saying she wants to be with him. Before Angela notices her, the dog barks, and Angela quickly shuts the door. Later, Wei prays. The next morning, Wei prays in her room before going out. As she walks, a stranger approaches her, noting that she looks lost. She asks for directions to the science museum, and he points her toward it. Wei introduces herself, and the man says his name is John. Without lingering, she quickly walked away. In class, Paul the lecturer is giving an exam to his students. Eve gets a good grade, but Wei gets a perfect score. When Paul says Wei's name, all the students turn around to look at her. Before the students leave the classroom, Paul tells them they can go visit the laboratory if they want a grade that will appear on their CV. Later, Wei goes to the lab by herself. She takes out her father's notebook and tries to study. At that moment, Paul comes in unexpectedly. She panics when she sees him. Then he takes the notebook from her. She tells him it's her father's research. When he tries to read it, he sees it's in Chinese and doesn't understand it, but he tells her she can be his assistant if she wants. That night, Angela's friends, Eve and Jasmine, are at Angela's house. Jasmine is smoking a cigarette. Curious about Wei's belongings, Jasmine asks Angela about them. Angela explains that it's for a Chinese ancestor prayer that her father set up to help Wei feel more at home. The three friends look at a photo of Wei's father, then they go to a mirror and see different images. They also find a piece of lab equipment. Suddenly, Angela leaves the room quickly without doing anything else. Wei returns home while the three friends are watching a movie, but they don't notice her come in. When she greets them, they get startled and scream. Angela introduces Wei to her friends. Then they all sit together to watch the movie, but when Jasmine sees Wei eating shellfish, she stands up and walks away. Eve and Angela follow her, leaving Wei alone and feeling awkward. Paul is busy working on his research, focused on his recent discovery. He seems completely occupied. The next day in class, he tells the students to open their books and continues teaching as usual. After class, Wei sees Angela, Eve, and Jasmine nearby. She imagines what it would be like to act like them. Then she walks over and invites them to yumcha. They seem confused and ask her what that is. Wei explains it's her father's favorite meal, and they respond with sympathy. Later, all of them join her for the meal. When they take a group photo, Eve and Angela appear uncomfortable. When the food arrives, Angela doesn't like it and refuses to eat. Wei tells her that Ling said Angela enjoys this food, but Angela stays quiet and ignores her. After that, Angela and Eve get up to leave. Jasmine, feeling awkward, tells Wei she should probably follow them. Wei ends up spending the night alone, and things don't go the way she had hoped. The next day, Wei goes to see John. She shows him the burn on her face and tells him that she believes she's ugly because one of her ancestors did something wrong. She says she feels ashamed of how she looks. John comforts her by saying that the world itself is ugly. Wei replies that she believes she can make the world beautiful. Before they can continue their conversation, Paul shows up and takes Wei with him. On the way, Paul tells her she can join him in the lab and that together, they can create something meaningful. When they arrive at his house, he tells her they can start working the next day. Wei seems unsure, but she nods and leaves. At home, Wei finds a written promise she made to her father's ancestor, that she will make him proud. Before she can continue, she hears a noise and goes to Angela's room. She peeks through a small hole and sees Angela with her boyfriend. They're having a good time and speaking gently to each other. When the dog barks, sensing someone at the door, Angela tells her boyfriend to leave. Afterward, Angela gets angry. She tells Wei that they need to set boundaries and that she doesn't care what Ling said. Later, Wei feels heartbroken. Her face is covered with tears as she looks at the burn on her face. The next day, Wei is in the lab with Paul. She shows him her father's notebook and explains how it contains ideas about making people beautiful. Paul is excited about working with her, and they start doing various experiments and research together, but none of their efforts lead to results. Later, Wei prays to her ancestor, calling her by name. She says she misses her father and needs his guidance. The next day in the lab, Paul is frustrated. He tells Wei she's making him look bad. He angrily takes off his gloves and throws them. Jasmine walks in and asks if the lab sign-up is still open. Paul hands her a sign-up sheet that will allow her to register as a lab assistant. Later, Jasmine and Wei are riding the train home. Jasmine admits that it's been hard trying to fit in with their group, but she says she understands Wei now. She apologizes for taking the lab job and encourages Wei to take off her scarf. Jasmine gently tells her she doesn't need to wear it. Wei takes out a paper showing a drawing of a corpse flower and says it has bloomed for the first time in 5 years. They spend the rest of the ride listening to music, and Wei starts feeling more at ease around Jasmine. In a flashback, Wei remembers drawing the corpse flower and the special time she spent with her father. After that, Wei goes to the site of the blooming corpse flower. She cuts a chain to get inside and finds the large flower in full bloom. She touches it and collects a sample of its substance. Back at the school lab, Wei uses the substance she took from the flower and begins mixing it with other ingredients. In another room, Paul and Eve are being intimate. Eve is doing it in hopes of getting a good grade, but they stop when they hear a noise. Paul goes to check and sees Wei peeling off a layer of her skin and applying the mixture she made with the corpse flower. Her skin begins to heal as the new substance works. Paul, sensing something important has happened, tells Eve that he's going to talk to Wei and suggests she leave through the other door. Eve, feeling jealous, secretly takes a photo of Paul and Wei just as Wei is showing him her healing skin. Then, Eve approaches them and asks if she's interrupting, making a sarcastic comment that hints at more. Wei panics and leaves quickly. Eve leans in and whispers to Paul that he should punish Wei and reminds him that she's still waiting for him, then she walks away. Paul, however, is excited about Wei's breakthrough. He calls someone and asks for help translating the notebook, snapping a photo of a page and sending it over. Meanwhile, Angela receives the photo of Paul and Wei from Eve. She immediately suspects there's something going on between them. Her boyfriend drives her home, and she tells him that her mother will be visiting that night, so they can spend the evening together. As soon as she enters her house, she finds a note written in Chinese. After translating it, she sees it says stupid, which makes her angry. She calls her mother to complain about Wei, but her mother defends Wei, which frustrates Angela even more. Elsewhere, Eve takes Wei to an unfamiliar place. She tells Wei to follow her, claiming she wants to show her something special. But then she suddenly warns Wei not to get involved with a lecturer. Wei stands up for herself and says she didn't do anything like that. Eve demands that Wei show her what she showed Paul. Wei asks if she really wants to see, but before anything can happen, Eve insults her harshly and walks away, leaving Wei alone in the strange place. Wei feels hurt and starts crying. Wei walks home. When she arrives, Angela is still awake and crying. Wei notices that the ancestor shrine where she usually prays has been disturbed. She warns Angela that the ancestor will curse them if it's not respected. Their conversation quickly turns into an argument. In anger, Angela knocks over the picture of Wei's father. The fight gets physical, and as Angela gets close, Wei grabs a pair of chopsticks and stabs Angela in the eye. Wei panics and calls her name, but Angela doesn't respond. She's lifeless. At that moment, Ling is on her way back home. She tries to call Angela, but Wei doesn't answer the phone. Later, Wei drags Angela's body into the bathroom, still believing she can bring her back to life. She removes the chopstick from her eye, then cuts her own face to take skin from it. After that, she cuts Angela's face and injects it with the corpse flower substance she created earlier. Then she places Angela's facial skin over her own. Suddenly, her appearance changes. When she looks in the mirror, she sees Angela's face. Her wounds have vanished. Wei, now transformed, speaks to her father and says that she did it. Soon after, Ling arrives home and finds Wei pretending to be Angela. Her face now looks exactly like Angela's. Ling doesn't suspect anything. She approaches her kindly and even apologizes for yelling at her before. She asks if she wants hot chocolate, and Wei nods. Ling gives her a comforting hug. That night, Eve is with Paul, trying to get his attention, but Paul ignores her and pushes her hand away when she tries to get close. She stands up, wanting to take a picture with him, but he snaps at her and refuses. Frustrated, Eve brings up Wei, but Paul doesn't let her finish. He tells her to sit down like a child and says he just wants to work. Meanwhile, Wei is in the bathroom practicing how to act like Angela. She watches videos of Angela to mimic her voice and behavior. Ling knocks on the door to say goodbye. She is leaving and will be back next week. Before she goes, she apologizes again for not being around but tells Wei that she's always proud of her. After Ling leaves, Wei continues practicing to become Angela. Back at school, students notice something strange. Wei now looks exactly like Angela, and everyone is confused. They think she's Angela, but their expressions show doubt. Even Angela's boyfriend kisses her, completely unaware that the girl in front of him isn't Angela at all. Later, Wei receives a call from Angela's coach. To avoid suspicion in training, she injures herself by slamming her locker on her hand. The school doctor treats her and tells her not to use her broken finger for a few days, giving her an excuse to stay away from the training ground. At a cafe, Wei sits with Eve and Jasmine. Neither of them knows Angela is dead or that Wei has taken her identity. Jasmine asks to see a photo, but before they can continue, she gets a phone call and leaves. Eve, feeling unsure, awkwardly tells Angela that she loves her. Wei hesitantly responds that she loves her too. Later, Wei gets ready for a date with Angela's boyfriend. He gives her flowers, and they go to a quiet, private spot to spend time together. While they're joking around, part of Angela's facial skin slips off and lands on his face. Horrified, he tries to run but falls off the side of a mountain. He lies still and lifeless. Wei, now covered in blood, breaks down crying, but there's nothing she can do to save him. Back at home, Wei searches for her father's notebook, but it's missing. She tries calling Paul, but he doesn't answer. The notebook is in Paul's hands. He's using Wei's father's research and claiming it as his own. Determined, Wei re-injects Angela's face with the corpse flower substance, managing to restore her disguise and appear like Angela once again. Meanwhile, Paul visits the giant corpse flower and takes more of its substance. Wei sneaks into Paul's office to look for her notebook, but she doesn't find it. In frustration, she throws documents everywhere, destroying the office's order. When she calls Paul, he calmly tells her the notebook has vanished and that, as the lead scientist, the research will belong to him. This infuriates her. Later, Wei spots Eve through the window and walks over to her, asking for a ride home. Still believing that Wei is Angela, Eve agrees without hesitation. At Angela's house, Wei tells Eve they should go shopping the next day. Eve notices that Wei's neck looks dry and casually suggests she use some moisturizer. The next day, Paul arrives at his office and is stunned to find it in total chaos. Despite the mess, he holds the notebook tightly, confused, yet satisfied that it's still in his possession. At home, Eve dresses up and tells Wei she wants to see if Paul will still ignore her, even while wearing the outfit Wei gave her. That night, Cheryl sees Eve and Wei returning home through the window. Wei locks the door behind them. Eve notices a strange smell in the house and asks what it is. Wei says it might be from Wei's things. Wei takes Eve upstairs, saying she has something to show her. Eve becomes suspicious and says she wants to go home, but Wei convinces her to come into her room. Suddenly, Wei attacks her. Eve manages to break free and runs downstairs, trying to open the front door, but it's locked. She rushes to the side door, but the gate is locked too. With no way to escape, Eve decides to hide in the dirty swimming pool, holding her breath underwater. However, Wei realizes that Eve is hiding in the pool. Without hesitation, she grabs a drill and kills her, driving it into her head with brutal force. Afterward, Wei drags Eve's body to the bathroom. She cuts off Eve's facial skin. At that moment, Cheryl, the neighbor, knocks on the door. Wei answers, trying to stay calm. Cheryl warns her to keep the dog quiet or she'll call the police. Now fully transformed into Eve, Wei injects the corpse flower substance again and looks just like her. As usual, she practices mimicking Eve's voice and expressions. Then, she goes to her father's ancestor shrine and makes a promise that she will get his notebook back. Later, 2 police officers arrive. Wei, now disguised as Eve, answers the door. They explain that they're investigating the disappearance of a student named Angela. Wei tells them she'll show them Angela's room but says she needs to get dressed first. The officers search the room thoroughly, but they find nothing. Before leaving, one of the officers gives Wei his contact number and tells her to reach out if she needs anything else. At school, Jasmine approaches Wei, now fully transformed into Eve, and asks about Angela. Wei, pretending to be Eve, tells her that Angela might be sick. The police officers are nearby, continuing their investigation. Frustrated, Wei brushes Jasmine off, claiming she doesn't know anything, and sarcastically adds that maybe Jasmine is sick too. Later, disguised as Eve, Wei goes to the lecture hall wearing a short dress and flirts with Paul in the middle of his class. After class, she visits Paul at his home. When he tries to touch her, she attempts to escape, but he manages to keep her there and ends up spending time with her anyway. That night, Eve's real dead body is wrapped in plastic. Wei, still disguised as Eve, buries the body in the garden. At that moment, Cheryl hears her dog barking and steps outside to check. She is startled when she sees Eve. Wei, acting nervous, claims to be afraid of the dog. Cheryl scolds her, saying Angela was supposed to take care of it. Wei responds casually, then quickly walks away using a shortcut. Later, the dog is seen chewing on Eve's severed hand, while Wei calmly eats her dinner. Meanwhile, Wei crafts a fake email and attaches a photo of herself with Paul, sending it to create tension and cause trouble. At school, Paul gets into a heated argument with the police, insisting that Wei come to his office. Jasmine watches the exchange from a distance, observing closely. Later, Wei sneaks into Paul's house to search for her father's notebook. Paul catches her and tells her that he's quit his job. Wei reassures him that it might be for the best. He seems disturbed and tells her to meet him later. Afterward, Paul is in his lab, busy mixing the corpse flower substance. When he injects it into a sample of skin and sees a positive reaction, he becomes excited by his new discovery. Paul sends a voice message to Eve, who is actually Wei in disguise, telling her he wants to celebrate his success with her. Without hesitation, Wei goes to him. Paul pours some whiskey and brings out a drug, but before anything happens, he gets a phone call. While he's distracted, Wei quietly takes the sample of the substance. She tells him she has a headache, and he tells her to go home and rest. Before she leaves, he asks her for a kiss. She kisses him briefly, then quickly leaves. Feeling suspicious, Paul checks for the substance and realizes it's gone, but he calms down when he sees that he still has the notebook. Back at home, Wei peels off Eve's skin from her face and transforms back into herself. She injects the corpse flower substance again to heal. Just then, Jasmine arrives and notices Wei is wearing Eve's dress. Instead of confronting her, Jasmine hugs her, trying to comfort her. She tells Wei she can stay the night, but when Jasmine opens the refrigerator, she discovers a dead body inside. Before she can react, Wei grabs a plastic bag and suffocates her, killing her. Wei cries over Jasmine's body, overwhelmed with guilt. Later that night, Paul goes to Wei's house and notices Eve's car parked outside. Suspicious, he sneaks in through the back door. He walks in slowly and sees Wei on the ground. She doesn't know who's entered the house. When he asks where Eve is, Wei replies vaguely that she's around. Then she snaps, shouting at him that she can't believe he stole her father's research. She insists it belongs to her family, but Paul stands his ground and tells her coldly to go back where she came from, that the work is his now. Paul opens the refrigerator and finds Eve's severed head inside. Panicked, he stumbles back, just as Wei suddenly appears and injects a needle into his neck. She turns on loud music and starts dancing, laughing, and entertaining herself as if nothing is wrong. Paul slowly regains consciousness, screaming in pain. His neck is bleeding heavily where his skin has been cut. Wei injects him with the corpse flower substance, and he howls in agony. The noise catches Cheryl's attention outside. As Paul's body reacts, his skin begins to regenerate, slowly covering his face. Cheryl enters, but when she sees what's happening, she screams and immediately runs away in terror. Wei hears sirens, and the police are coming. She panics and runs, trying to escape before they catch her. The officers chase after her. Desperate, Wei hides at John's place. He covers her with his scarf to protect her identity. When the police arrive and ask if he's seen the woman, John lies and says she ran in the opposite direction. However, the blood on Wei begins to react, and suddenly, something strange happens. The corpse flower substance interacts with both Wei and John. Together, they begin to transform into a strange, unrecognizable creature, something new, born from blood, science, and desperation. Ling sits at a cafe, clearly shaken and in tears. Disturbed and overwhelmed, she returns to her house and tries to call Wei, but the woman who answers isn't Wei, it is a stranger, someone Ling doesn't recognize. Later, Ling spots a terrifying creature in a nearby area, an unnatural being formed from Wei and John. Horrified, she runs for her life, trying to escape the nightmare that has unfolded before her eyes.